Child of God, I come to you today not with empty promises or quick-fix schemes that fade like morning dew. I come with truth that will shake the very foundation of how you see your financial life. Financial habits are like invisible architecture. You don't see them, but they determine whether your money life stands or crumbles. I was once lost in the wilderness of financial confusion myself, drowning in decisions that kept me bound to struggle. But it wasn't the grand gestures that saved me. No, it was the silent habits, the daily unseen disciplines that transformed my relationship with money. What if, hear me now, what if the wealthiest people you know aren't doing what you think they're doing with their money? What if their secret isn't what's visible, but what's invisible? Forget budgeting apps and spreadsheets for a moment. I'm talking about something deeper. Something that works in the quiet moments when nobody's watching. Something that reprograms your very soul. Before we dive into these waters of transformation, I want you to grab the free implementation guide in the description that will walk you through each of these habits day by day. This isn't just information, this is revelation applied to your life. By day 7, you'll notice your first unconscious financial decision shift. Your mind will begin to operate from a different place. The old man of financial bondage will begin to die, and a new creation will emerge. This guide isn't just paper with words, it's the map to your financial promised land. The Midnight Money Minute. I'm about to share something so simple yet so powerful that it might just change everything. The Midnight Money Minute, just 60 seconds before you lay your head down to rest. That's all I'm asking. 60 seconds, reflecting on 3 financial decisions you made that very day. You see, what happens in those quiet moments before sleep is sacred. Your brain is preparing for deep rest, and in that preparation, it's moldable. The neuroscience is clear. When you reflect right before sleep, you create new neural pathways during your rest. I had a woman come to me, drowning in debt, crushed under the weight of financial chaos. She couldn't bear to look at her statements, couldn't face another budget. I told her, daughter, just give me 60 seconds before you sleep, that's all. And she did it. For 3 nights, she reflected on just 3 decisions each day. By the 4th night, something shifted. She caught herself before making an impulse purchase, not because of willpower, but because her mind was being rewired in the night. Here's how you implement this for days 1-3. First, you place a small notebook by your bed. Nothing fancy. Then you write down 3 financial decisions you made that day, good or bad, it doesn't matter. Then you ask yourself one question. What was I truly seeking when I made this decision? That's it. No judgment, no shame, just awareness. Do this for 3 nights and I promise you, something will begin to shift in your financial spirit. Strategic financial friction. Now listen to me carefully. I'm about to tell you something that goes against everything the world has been selling you. The world says, make it easy to spend, make it convenient, one-click purchasing, save credit cards, automatic payments. But I'm here to tell you about strategic financial friction, and some of you need to hear this right now. There is power in deliberately adding friction to your spending channels. I'm not talking about making life difficult. I'm talking about creating sacred pause between desire and action. The psychology is profound. When you have to work a little to make a purchase, when you have to reach for that card, when you have to enter those numbers, when you have to walk to that store instead of clicking a button, something happens in your spirit. That small moment of friction gives your higher mind a chance to speak before your impulses leap. I counseled a young man who couldn't understand where his money was going. His account was bleeding and he couldn't stop the flow. I told him, remove your stored payment information from every online account. He looked at me like I was speaking in tongues. But Bishop, that's so inconvenient. Exactly. 3 weeks later, he came back transformed. Bishop, he said with tears in his eyes, I've saved $300 just by having to get up and find my wallet. It wasn't the friction that saved him. It was the awareness the friction created. For days 4 to 6, I want you to identify your spending hot zones, those places where money leaves you without thought. For some, it's Amazon. For others, it's that coffee shop. For others still, it's those subscriptions that drain you silently. Then, add one layer of friction. Delete the app from your phone. Remove saved payment information. Set a rule that you must wait 24 hours before any purchase over $50. Walk to the store instead of ordering delivery. This isn't about restriction. This is about freedom. Freedom from the impulse, freedom from the regret, freedom from the bondage of thoughtless spending. The friction isn't your enemy. The friction is your salvation. The wealth proximity principle. I need you to hear me, and hear me well. Your financial destiny is being shaped right now by the 5 people closest to you. The wealth proximity principle isn't just some theory, it's scripture in action. Iron sharpens iron, the good book says. But rust can also spread to iron. The invisible influence of your 5 closest relationships is programming your financial thermostat, whether you realize it or not. Their spending habits, their money fears, their wealth mindset, it's all transferring to you like a spiritual contagion. I'm not telling you to abandon your loved ones. No, I'm telling you to curate the financial influences in your life with intentionality and purpose. There was a woman in my congregation who couldn't understand why she kept falling into the same financial traps. Every time she would get ahead, something would pull her back. We sat down and mapped out her 5 closest influences, and there it was, revealed. Every Friday night she was with friends who spent without thought. Every Sunday dinner, her family ridiculed saving. Every day at work, her colleagues complained about money but shopped during lunch. She didn't need to cut these people off. She needed to add new influences to her circle. She joined a financial growth group. She started having coffee once a week with a mentor who had financial wisdom. She created space between herself and the unconscious spending behaviors of others. Within 2 months, her savings had tripled. Not because she was earning more, but because her proximity had changed. For days, 7-8, I want you to conduct a relationship audit. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then honestly assess, do they build your financial wisdom or drain it? Do they celebrate your discipline or tempt you away from it? Do they speak abundance or scarcity? Then identify one new relationship to cultivate. Find someone with the financial wisdom you need. It might be in person, it might be through books, it might be through healthy financial communities online. You cannot soar with the eagles if you're scratching with the chickens. Your proximity will become your destiny. Choose it wisely. Temporal reframing. I'm about to give you a revelation that will change how you see every dollar that passes through your hands. The practice of temporal reframing. It's time to stop seeing money as just numbers and start seeing it as what it truly is, hours of your life energy. That $50 shirt isn't just $50. If you make $25 an hour after taxes, that shirt costs 2 hours of your life. That $100 dinner isn't just Benjamin Franklin on paper. It's 4 hours of your heartbeat, your breath, your precious time on this earth that you'll never get back. This isn't about guilt. This is about clarity. This is about truth. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They knew that time, not money, is the true currency of life. And when you begin to translate every expense into the hours of life it consumed, something powerful happens in your consciousness. A man came to me, drowning in debt, but making good money. He couldn't understand the disconnect. I had him carry a small card in his wallet. Before every purchase, he had to calculate how many hours of his life this item would cost him. The shift was immediate, and it was powerful. "Bishop," he told me later, "I was about to buy a new TV for $1,000. But when I realized it would cost me a full week of my life, I asked myself, is this really worth a week of my existence?" He walked away, not from deprivation, but from enlightenment. For days 9-10, I want you to calculate your true hourly wage. Take what you earn after taxes and divide by the hours you work, including commuting time and work preparation. That is the true value of your hourly life energy. Then, before every purchase, large or small, translate it to hours. That coffee, 15 minutes of your life. That car, 400 hours of your existence. Ask yourself, would I trade these hours of my one precious life for this item? Sometimes the answer is yes, and that's beautiful when it's conscious. But often the answer will be a revelation that sets you free from unconscious consumption. The Stoics taught us that we are dying each day. Each hour spent is gone forever. When you view your purchases through the lens of life's finite nature, you begin spending not just money, but time itself with sacred intention. Financial pre-commitment architecture. I'm about to share a truth that will liberate you from the daily battle with your financial self. Financial pre-commitment architecture. Some of you need to write that down because it's about to change everything. Your willpower is not enough. I said, your willpower is not enough. The psychology is clear. We have a finite amount of decision-making energy each day. By evening, that tank is empty, and that's when financial destruction often strikes. What you need isn't more willpower. You need better architecture. You need invisible structures that make good financial decisions automatic, that make wealth building the path of least resistance. I counseled a young couple drowning in debt despite good intentions. Every month they promised to save, but every month the money was gone. I told them, stop relying on monthly decisions. Create a system that decides for you. They set up automatic transfers that moved money to savings the moment their paychecks arrived. Not a day later, not when they felt ready, immediately. They automated bill payments to avoid late fees. They created separate accounts for different purposes to prevent the mental accounting that was destroying their future. Within 3 months, they had saved more than in the previous 3 years. Not because they suddenly earned more, but because they created an architecture that worked even when they were tired, even when they were tempted, even when their willpower was depleted. For day 11, I want you to design your financial environment to make wealth building inevitable. Set up automatic transfers to savings, even if it's just 1% at first. Create separate accounts for different purposes: emergency fund, vacation, giving, major purchases. Automate bill payments to avoid those fees that are stealing your future. Remove the daily decision burden. When good financial habits are automatic, they become unstoppable. The architecture of your financial life will either serve you or sabotage you. Build it with intention, build it with wisdom, build it for the glory that awaits you. The value-based spending rule. I'm about to share something that will revolutionize not just how you spend, but how you feel about every dollar that leaves your hands. The value-based spending rule. The world has been lying to you, telling you that you need more to be happy. But the truth, and I need somebody to hear this truth today, is that satisfaction doesn't come from spending more. It comes from spending aligned with what you truly value. This is an unconventional approach that the financial industry doesn't want you to know. Identify your true values. Not what society tells you to value, not what your neighbor values, not what the commercials say you should value, but what your soul values at its core. Then align your spending exclusively with those values. Everything else gets a firm, loving, liberating no. I worked with a woman who felt constant financial shame despite making good money. Every purchase left her feeling guilty. Every statement filled her with dread. We sat down and did a values audit. What emerged shocked her. She valued experiences with her children, her spiritual growth, and creating a beautiful home sanctuary. But she was spending on designer clothes she didn't care about, expensive dinners to impress colleagues she didn't even like, and subscriptions she never used. When she realigned her spending only to what truly mattered to her soul, something miraculous happened. Her spending actually decreased, but her joy multiplied. For the first time, she felt peace with her financial statements because every dollar reflected her true heart. For days 12-13, conduct your personal values audit. Ask yourself, if I had just 5 years to live, what would I spend money on? That question cuts through the noise and reveals the truth. Make a list of your top 5 values. Be specific. Not just family, but weekly quality experiences with my children. Not just health, but nourishing food that gives me energy and strength. Then track your spending for these 2 days and place each expense next to a value it serves. If an expense serves no core value, I want you to feel the disconnect. That disconnect is the source of financial discontent. This isn't about deprivation, this is about alignment. When your spending aligns with your values, buyer's remorse vanishes, financial anxiety dissolves. What remains is the peace that comes with integrity between your heart and your habits, the micro-investment trigger system. I need to tell you about something so powerful yet so simple that it might just transform your financial future while you barely notice it happening. The micro-investment trigger system. Most people are waiting for some massive windfall to start investing. They're waiting to have enough money. But I'm here to tell you that wealth isn't built on occasional mountains. It's built on daily molehills that accumulate into greatness. The micro-investment trigger system creates environmental cues that automatically prompt small investments throughout your day. It harnesses the psychology of habit formation and links it directly to wealth creation. Every time you perform a specific daily activity, drinking coffee, checking social media, completing a workout, you make a small investment. These might be just $1, $5, $10, but the compound effect over time becomes miraculous. I worked with a young man who claimed he had nothing left to invest at the end of each month. His pockets felt empty, his accounts depleted. I told him, every time you check Instagram, transfer $2 to your investment account. He laughed. Bishop, that's nothing. What difference will $2 make? 1 year later, he came back transformed. Just from this one trigger, he had accumulated over $1,500 in investments. From nothing left to a growing nest egg. And because the amounts were small, he never felt the pinch. But his future felt the abundance. For day 14, I want you to establish 3 micro-investment triggers in your life. First, identify 3 daily activities you do without fail. Brushing your teeth, checking email, getting a coffee, whatever is consistent in your life. Second, determine a small amount you'll invest each time this activity occurs. It can be as little as $1, but it must be automatic. Third, set up the technology to make this effortless. Whether it's an app that rounds up purchases, automatic transfers, or even a simple jar that collects physical change that you'll deposit weekly. The power isn't in the amount, it's in the consistency. The miracle isn't in the individual action, it's in the compound effect over 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. What seems insignificant today becomes life-changing tomorrow. Your future self will look back on this day as the beginning of a financial revolution, the 70% identity shift. I'm about to share something so profound, so transformative, that it might just be the key that unlocks everything else we've discussed. The 70% identity shift. This isn't just another technique. This is a fundamental reformation of who you believe yourself to be. The philosophical practice of viewing yourself as already wealthy in your daily decisions. Listen to me carefully. Your financial behaviors aren't primarily driven by information. They're driven by identity, by who you believe yourself to be at the core of your being. The research is clear. Identity-based habit formation is 70% more effective than willpower-based approaches. When you shift your core identity, your behaviors naturally align with that new self-image without the constant struggle. A man came to me broken by decades of financial chaos. We'd tried budgeting, we'd tried systems, we'd tried accountability. Nothing stuck for long. Finally, I looked him in the eyes and said, "The problem isn't what you're doing, the problem is who you believe you are." We began the identity shift work. Every morning he would look in the mirror and declare not what he wanted to be, but who he already was. I am financially wise. I am a steward of abundance. I am someone who makes decisions with the long view in mind. At first it felt like fiction, but neuroscience shows us that the brain cannot easily distinguish between deeply imagined reality and actual experience. Within weeks, his decisions began to naturally align with this new identity without effort. He wasn't forcing himself to save. Saving was simply what someone like him did naturally. For day 15, I want you to implement 3 identity reinforcement practices. First, create identity statements that reflect the financial self you are becoming. Not, "I want to be debt-free," but "I am becoming debt-free." Not, "I should save more," but "I am a person who prioritizes the future." Second, find evidence in your past that supports this identity. Times when you were financially wise, when you did delay gratification, when you made sound choices. These moments are the seeds of your new identity. Third, practice identity-aligned decisions. Ask yourself before each choice, what would a financially wise person do in this situation? Then do that. Not because you should, but because it's who you are. This isn't self-deception. This is becoming. This is transformation. This is walking in the newness of who God created you to be all along. Beloved, what I've shared with you today is just the beginning. These 15 days are the foundation, but the fullness of transformation happens over 90 days of consistent application and community support. I'm inviting you right now to join our dedicated community of financial transformation. A place where these habits aren't just taught but lived, where these principles aren't just understood but embodied. The first 15 days will awaken you, but the next 75 days will transform you. They will establish these habits so deeply in your spirit that they become as natural as breathing. In this community, you won't walk alone. You'll be surrounded by others on this journey, people who will celebrate your victories and strengthen you in your struggles. Let me tell you about James, who joined us 3 months ago. He came in drowning in debt, his credit score in shambles, his future looking bleak. But he committed to the process. He embraced the community. He applied these principles daily. Today, his debt is down by 30%. His savings have quadrupled. But more importantly, the anxiety that once ruled his financial life has been replaced with peace. The chaos has been replaced with order. The fear has been replaced with confidence. Or Sarah, a single mother who believed financial stability was impossible for her. After 90 days in our community, she's not just stable, she's beginning to build wealth for the first time in her life. The transformation awaits you. The community awaits you. The abundance that God has always intended for your life awaits you. Join us for the complete 90-day transformation at website. The investment in this program will return to you 100-fold as these principles take root in your life. Don't just watch this video and walk away unchanged. Take action. Make today the day that your financial story began to shift. Make today the day that your financial legacy began to form.